100%. 100%. We executed.
I heard a fan offer free Dippin' Dots if I blew it.
Wanted to have some fun, execute. 100%. We executed.
I heard a fan offer free Dippin' Dots if I blew it.
Wanted to have some fun, execute.
I had bombs.
Stay as a team, execute, give 100%.
Dippin' Dots sound good.
Because I've got John Roberts here with me that's joining me. So going to get him in here, get him on the screen for you guys.
What's up?
Hey, man, what's up?
Oh, not much. Just recovering, late game last night.
Yes. We'll get to y'all's late games, especially with you on. I have it on the board here, but you guys did have a really, really late game last night for you guys. I mean, in the Eastern time zone, it was even later. I don't know. What was it, like 1:30, 2 o'clock when it was over with? Eastern time?
Should have been right around 1:45 2 a.m.-ish.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
Yeah,
that's what I figured.
Central Time, I think I looked up and I know it was – I'm pretty certain it was like 12:45-ish when we got done. So,
yeah.
Yep. It was,
all right.
It was a long one.
Yep. So I'm going to get started today. The AP poll come out today. Actually, both polls come out today, but I'm going to talk about the AP poll first. Georgia, of course, is number one. They got 55 first-place votes. Michigan's number two, got 2 first-place votes. Florida State is 3, got 3 first-place votes. Texas is number 4 and had 2 first-place votes. USC is 5, Ohio State 6, Penn State 7, Washington 8, Notre Dame 9, and Alabama 10. Do you have an issue with any of those top 10 after yesterday's games in the top 10 on the AP poll?
I mean, a lot of it is a bit reactionary. I didn't really care all that much. Didn't really have a huge problem with any of them, but it seemed very reactionary on those on some of those. So Georgia, Michigan, they started the season up top, so they kind of continue staying being where they are. Florida State with having their win week 1
last week,
against an opponent, and then taking care of business this past weekend. Texas with their big win, they virtually swapped places with Bama. I mean, I think Bama was number 3, Texas was number 11.
Right
now Texas is
now 4. It's 4-10. Yeah,
4-10. Yeah. So USC, I think, has been up there pretty much the whole time from preseason, so they haven't really moved much. They dropped Ohio State after the very slow start, I think, from last week. 2
games in a row. Yeah,
too.
Really.
Yeah. So Penn State has been, done exactly what they should have been doing. Washington's
look good. Notre Dame's look good.
Right. Tennessee slipped a little bit because I think they had a very slow start yesterday. They just all day yesterday.
So Tennessee's 11. Let's run through, if you want to run through 11 through 25 real quick.
Right. So that was Tennessee. Then it looks like it's Utah. Slow start and had a tough time with Baylor at Baylor.
With a third string quarterback.
So that's Oregon, got away with the win yesterday
Barely.
at Texas Tech. So again, those two Pac-12 teams went to the state of Texas and came out with victories.
Yes,
They didn't look pretty. They didn't look pretty, but they won.
Right.
So then there's LSU, who lost game, week 1, then took care of business. I mean, they were never going to be. There was never going to be a doubt against Grambling. K-State had a nice victory. I think they're 2-0.
They are. They beat Troy, and Troy had 12 wins last year, so it was a good win.
Yeah, and then Oregon State is 2-0. Ole Miss, took care of Tulane, which both of them I think were both like 23, 24, somewhere.
They were ranked. They were both ranked. Yeah, at the bottom.
So Ole Miss got about a 7,
and it was an away game. It was at Tulane, so
right.
Yeah.
Ole Miss got a little bit of about a 7-spot bump, and Tulane fell out of the top 25.
Right.
Colorado jumped into the top 25. If they had not already made it after last week, they definitely were in it after this week.
They moved up 4 spots this week. They were 22 last week.
So Oklahoma, this is just kind of funny, is that Oklahoma is at 19 right now. You just wouldn't really expect seeing that right now. And
they were kind of sluggish yesterday. I mean, I know their quarterback had 4 TDs, but
they were sluggish yesterday, but like last week they were pretty.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, but
they were.
But they started the season so low because of where they were how they finished last year.
Right.
So
yeah, absolutely.
That's what's funny, I guess, about it is just that's the case. Hold on, my phone decided to lock me out. So
that's okay. North Carolina's at 20. They struggled with App State yesterday.
They did.
But to give App State all the credit that they deserve, I mean, they almost beat North Carolina last year. They did beat Texas A&M last year. I mean, they are kind of known. They beat Michigan in the past. I mean, many years ago now. App State's kind of known for a tough out for some of these power conference teams. So,
Yeah. App State put up a fight and put it all the way up to the end, and then North Carolina was able to flex just a little bit. Duke is up there for their win against Clemson last week on Monday. And
Miami's now in the top 25. They weren't in. They snuck in after their win against Texas A&M yesterday at 22. So
right, and a double-digit victory against Texas A&M.
Yeah,
Wazoo I believe they beat Wisconsin.
One of my picks Thursday, by the way.
They picked Wisconsin last night. UCLA and I believe it's Iowa is the last one. So
yeah,
Kirk Ferentz doing Kirk Ferentz things, So yeah.
So one omission from this that is very glaring is Clemson.
Yeah, well,
they fell out. So, but they fell from like 6. They were 6th or 7, maybe 7.
Right. They were somewhere in the top 10.
They fell to 25.
Mm-hmm.
And then they won yesterday pretty convincing over a mediocre team. I mean, but are now setting as the first one out.
Yeah,
in the AP poll.
So this right here, I'm just going with they felt like these other teams deserved to be ranked ahead of them. Whether it be because they were 0-1 or they were 1-1 after yesterday, or these other teams that just felt were better.
Right. But I'm gonna ask you as a fan, when's the last time that Clemson was not in the top 25?
Not in the top 25. So if I have to recall, if it wasn't within the last,
I don't know the exact answer to that.
Couple of years, I would say it was probably
2013,
13, maybe? 12, yeah. 13, 14, kind of right in that area, because that's right around the time when I think Dabo was on the verge of being fired. And he got Deshaun Watson.
It was really around 15, I think, when they kind of took off.
Well, right, but I think 13
think.
nearly got fired. 14, I think, may have been year one with Deshaun. 14, 15, they start
15,
playing. They start getting in
16,
there.
17, 18, 19. That's when they were the best.
Right. Well,
Or
you have
one
two
of the best.
you have two generational quarterbacks like Deshaun Watson
Right.
and
But it's been a long time when you look at this poll. It's been a long time since Clemson's not been in the top 25.
correct. And yeah.
And there's one other thing that I want to mention in this poll. Alabama, of course, we will get to the Bama-Texas game here in just a few minutes, but after losing at home yesterday, and I won't get into more than that until I get to it here, but after losing at home yesterday, they fell to 10. There is some significance in that. Bama has been inside the top 10 in like 127 consecutive AP polls. They have not fallen out of the top 10 in like 127 consecutive AP polls. Now, they're only like 10 or 11 from the record. The record's like 137 or 138, something like that.
Okay.
They're only like 10 from the record, and when they got beat yesterday, the significance is they fell, but they fell to 10, so they're still in the top 10. And we'll see what happens, the next couple of weeks as the season goes along, and see how Bama plays, and if hopefully they don't take a tumble like Clemson did at 25 and fall that one spot, because they're right at it. You know what I mean? To be able to, 127 or 128 straight polls is a long, long time in the top 10, guys.
Right. Exactly.
Long time.
Been pretty much, if you really think about it, there's 12, 13 weeks in the season. You're looking at 10 years or in that neighborhood, 10 years that you haven't 25.
That's an amazing accomplishment. I know that there's going to be a lot of fans that are on the, take Bama down the drain train, because they're tired of seeing Bama being there. And I get it. I understand, but you're right. That's in the 10, 11, 12 year range. And that's a pretty significant, let me get the exact number for you guys, because I seen it earlier.
Yeah, well, the thing about it is 10 years ago would be the 2013 season, which they didn't make the championship game that year. They were on the verge of three-peating that year. So that means that the 2 years before that, they were number one, or at least they ended the year number one, which meant that they were going to be in the top 10 anyway of those. So you're looking at 2011, 2010, 2011 are the years in which you could pretty much predict that they were outside, because 2010 they lost 3 games in that season. 2011.
So they did fall to number 10 one time last year. It was in November. My guess is after the Tennessee game. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, but
they fell to number 10 one time last year. Okay.
Right.
And I'm trying to see
when they were outside the top 25.
No, I'm trying to get the exact number on the streak. I seen it in something
Yeah, because again, if you're going 10 years, here's the deal. They in 2011 and 2012 they were in the championship game because they won it. 2000 they got
back to back.
They got knocked out because of kick six. Kick six took them out of the running for it. In 2014, they were in the first ever playoff. They got knocked out in the first round by Ohio State. 2015, I believe they won. 16, I think they lost the championship game. 17, they beat Georgia in the championship game with Tua Tagovailoa. 18, was probably the Clemson game, I think. 18 or 19 was the Clemson game. Don't remember if they won either of those. I don't think they didn't win either of those. I don't think 2020 they won it again because that was the COVID season and they went undefeated. It's the one of two seasons with Nick Saban that they were undefeated. So 2020 being an all SEC 10-game season.
Of course, I can't find it now.
Yeah.
I seen it earlier on one of these things when I was clicking, and now I can't find it.
Right. And then 21, 22 were back-to-back. So 2010, unless it was sometime early in 2011, 2010 would have to be the time that they were out of the top 10. So however many.
It's 127, 128, something like that. The record's either 137 or 138. And they're not very far from the record. That's all I wanted to bring up. Gotcha. I can't really find it right now, but
yeah,
those are pretty amazing stats between that and Clemson falling out. And the last time Clemson wasn't even in the top 25, this poll is a little interesting, because Auburn and Clemson have been top 5 teams for nearly the last 10 years.
Alabama, but thanks for putting us in there.
Did I say Auburn?
You did.
No.
It's Alabama.
Alabama.
But thank you for that. I appreciate it. We've not
Alabama,
been that good.
Not Auburn. Alabama. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, Saban. Sorry, Alabama fans. I didn't mean that. There was a total.
Lord.
Yeah. That was a total misstep there. I didn't mean that.
Yeah.
All right. So from there, we'll kind of go to the scoreboard from yesterday. Name you some of these teams and some of the scores from yesterday as we go along here. I'm going to run through as many as I can. I may skip around and skip some. But I'm going to go through the entire weekend. Started out Louisville on Thursday, beat Murray State 56-0. You had Indiana beat Indiana State 41-7. Kansas beat Illinois on Friday 34-23. Georgia beat Ball State pretty handedly. Michigan won 35-7.
Before we go any further with that Georgia Ball State were 0-0 after the first quarter.
Yeah, it was slow. It was a slow start, and they had a slow start last week too.
But then in quarter number two, 31. So then it was 31-0 at the end of quarter number 2.
Right.
So at halftime, 31-0. But first quarter it was 0-0. I was looking at this score
and Michigan really wasn't all that. They played UNLV and beat them 35-7. It wasn't really all that impressive. You'll notice there was a lot of really not overly impressive wins yesterday.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them, actually. Texas beat Alabama 34-24. We'll get to that game next after this. Florida State 66, Southern Miss 13. Youngstown State 7, Ohio State 35. They were sluggish again yesterday. USC beat Stanford 56-10. Penn State beat Delaware 63-7. Washington beat Tulsa 43-10. Tennessee beat Austin Peay 30-13. But this game was a 6-6 game with about 6 minutes to go in the first half.
Yes, it was.
It was a very, very sluggish game. Tennessee did not play all that well in this game, but not really at all. Austin Peay is a very mediocre FCS team. So you have that. Kentucky. I'm wearing Kentucky. Kentucky looked the same way yesterday. Notre Dame, 45-24 over NC State at NC State, which is one of the more impressive wins yesterday, I think.
How long was their rain delay? Or how long was their weather delay? Weather wasn't just rain.
I'm not sure.
They had one. I just don't remember how long it was.
I don't remember how long it was.
Yeah. I got you.
Utah beat Baylor last night 20-13. Did come from behind. They had to put in another quarterback because the starter from the one that beat Florida was bad. He was like 6 of 19.
They had two in that game.
Yeah.
They played a two system because they had one that was more of a runner and one that was more of a thrower.
Well, the one that was a runner come in and basically saved the day for him last night.
Gotcha.
Oregon beat Texas Tech 38-30.
Yep.
LSU 72-10. These are all the rankings. Kansas State is 42-13 over Troy. Oregon State was 55-7 over UC Davis. North Carolina 40-34 in a double overtime over App State. Oklahoma beat SMU 28-11. Washington State beat Wisconsin, which is one of the more impressive wins yesterday, I think, 31-22. It was at home for them. Ole Miss, which I think besides Texas maybe had the ranked win of the day because they were the only other ranked two opponents, beat Tulane 37-20 at Tulane. Duke was 42-7 over Lafayette. I'm not sure how they pronounce that down there. Depends on where you're at.
Lafayette's a county in Alabama. Lafayette is any other place I've ever seen it announced.
Yeah. It just depends if you're from the South. Lots of people say Lafayette, but Lafayette is the proper pronunciation.
It's the proper French pronunciation,
right.
Lafayette.
Yeah, right. Colorado 36-14 over Nebraska. Miami 48-33 over Texas A&M. Clemson beat Charleston Southern 66-17. That is scoreboard yesterday for the top 25. So how many of those games did you pay attention to? I know you paid attention to some of them because some of them are really big. But that's kind of the top 25 scoreboard.
Okay, so during the day, there was always at least one big game that was going on. So the big noon kickoff was the Colorado and Nebraska game. So I had that game going. My quad. So everybody calls it a quad box, but I don't have YouTube, so I don't have the ones that are predetermined for you. I have ESPN app with Apple TV, so I can create my own, but it has to be ESPN only. It can't be just any channel. So my non-ESPN games I'm watching on the computer in which I'm doing this podcast on. So my non-ESPN games that I had watched yesterday were the Colorado-Nebraska game. I had the I had Elasico, Iowa State going at one point. I think that was the morning game, right? That was the first one? Or
yeah.
No.
That might have been the 2 o'clock game.
Yeah, so it was the one that was at 2. Okay, so it would have followed the Colorado State one, Colorado and Nebraska. And then that night I had the Oregon game on. I had the Wisconsin game on until the Oregon game kicked, and I think I put it on to that one.
Well, I watched one game that I just didn't mention, but I watched some of the Mississippi State and Arizona game last night.
Right.
And it was on right as, I guess, the Auburn game was kind of finishing, I think.
No. They would have been
when the Auburn game was starting, is what I'm saying. They were finishing when the Auburn game was starting, was what I meant to say.
Yes.
And I watched a little bit of that game. You know, it was amazing to me to see Mississippi State barely survive a win at home over an Arizona team that's probably not going to be in the top 8 or so of the Pac-12. And they created 5 turnovers in that game and still nearly lost.
I've got a stat about turn to get to the Auburn game. by the way. It is.
They had 5
it's
turnovers
funny.
in that game and still nearly lost at home. So I'm not overly impressed with that win, to be honest with you, even though Mississippi State did pull it out and win. They were ahead like 20 points or something at one time. So, but anyway, we will move on to the big game of the week. Texas and Alabama, of course, was the big game yesterday, and we will move on to that game. And, I'll start it with this. This is only the second time, or let's put it this way. This was the first time since 2007 that Nick Saban has lost a non-conference home game, period.
Correct.
This is only the second time it's ever happened.
Yes.
It
happened.
That was in 2007 in his very first season, like his first or second, third game. I can't remember now when that Louisiana.
No, that La Monroe game happened late in the
La
season.
Monroe game. Was it late in the season?
Yes, it was one of those games like the one right before the Iron Bowl kind of game.
Okay.
It was late. It was like that.
Okay. But it was in his first season.
Yes.
It was his first season as a coach. He's in his 16th year or 17th.
2007 was number 1. So
it's either 16th or 17th year if you count it up. I can't remember now. I think it's 16, I believe, but so it has not happened since then, and they got handled pretty good last night. Texas beat them 34-24. I thought the D-line play of Texas was pretty much the game changer in this game to me by watching it. I thought Texas D-line pretty much ate up that Alabama offensive line, who is huge. I mean, these guys are average like 339 pounds and getting eat up by Texas D-line. And I thought that was a huge, huge take in this game. And I'll throw it to you, Roberts, John Roberts. I don't know.
So what we were looking for was joyless murder ball. That was the game plan. That's what we thought we were going to see. Joyless murder ball, which is pretty much
with that offensive line.
Lining up and running it right down your throat. Lining up down your throat. And every now and then you may throw one deep. Okay. Well, what we got was Jalen Milroe running for his life, because anytime that they decided that they wanted to throw the ball, those big dudes that they had on the line, they've got 3 guys that are over 350. They could not block the D line. They could not block. They could not hold the line. And there was.
I've been telling everybody, this Texas team has talent everywhere.
So the center was snapping, was getting called for the for the illegal snaps. He kept jerking the ball before he snapped it. There were holds all over the place that Alabama was getting called for. I mean, it was a lot like they had 15 penalties, I think, last year in this game, and they were pretty darn close to it, because the last time I remember seeing it, I did not see if they actually made it to 15. I didn't think they did, but I thought they were getting close. They were at 9 the last time I saw it. So this joyless murder ball didn't quite happen. But the thing about what everybody had said about Jalen Milroe is, like, he's got the legs to run around, but he has such a beautiful deep ball. And they finally showed it in the fourth quarter, the late third and early fourth quarter. They just started bombing it at the time. And I was like, oh, because this is at the point when it went from being a defensive struggle to, oh my God, every in a touchdown. And it was like when Alabama really started kind of coming back and they took the lead. And then at this point, it was like, oh, it might be whoever the last last one with the ball won. And yeah, so it just ended up being where that like both teams were just, send their two or three wide receivers deep and just chunk one down there and see if one of them could run under it. And that's what it
I will
ended up
say
being.
this. I'll say this about Bama. I think they're going to be fine overall, but when you look at this team, and I said this was kind of the same thing last year. I don't see they have talent in many, many places and 5-star kids all around, but I don't really see that in the receiver group.
Well, okay, so in the receivers, they've got Burton, who I think that came from Georgia. I'm trying to think of who else that they had that they were throwing to, and it was just that they had one of their tight ends seemed like he was bailing out Jalen Milroe from time to time, but it was I mean it's not the Jerry Judys and the Smiths of the world. It's just you end up not having those guys. They don't have that. They don't have the name recognition right now. I don't think
they're kind of missing that. That's something they're missing on their team in the receiver room, I think.
Right. But they've also kind of gone to, again, a style of play where they're kind of reverting back to what they were doing 10, 12 years ago.
Well, I think that's kind of dictated by Milroe.
Correct. I think that is dictated by the quarterback situation, whether it was Milroe or even if it were Ty Simpson or Ty Buckner. I feel like that they don't have that. They need a guy that could just manage the offense. They don't need a playmaker anymore, which means as far as receivers, they don't necessarily need playmaking receivers if that's the case. So that's where I'm kind of getting.
So Bama had 10 penalties last night.
10, okay.
10 for 90 yards, which is a lot on 10 penalties, if you ask me. And Texas only had 4 for the entire game. Yeah.
I just want to give you a little quick update. The Packers have stopped the Bears on 4th down.
Okay. Well,
I believe the
game just started.
I think it's a turnover on downs on this one. So,
okay.
Yeah. I just wanted to let you know that it is on Fox.
Okay.
Here at least, I assume you're getting it there too. Just
I thought Ewers was really, really heady in this game, solid in this game. Like he had 3 TDs, 349 yards. I think he was like 24-38. So I mean, I thought Ewers was pretty stellar in this game, and they have a ton of talent on this Texas team. I've been telling people that all through the preseason, but I went against all of what I've been saying, and I did pick Bama at home in this game. So I will fully admit that I got the picks wrong on this game. But had it been the other way around, had this game been last year's game at Texas, I probably with this season's team would have probably picked Texas at home. Milroe was so yesterday. I thought, he was about 50%. He was like 15 of 28 or 14 of 27, something like that. He had 2 touchdowns and 2 picks yesterday. Mm-hmm. And at times he ran for his life.
Right. So the one of the picks came early in the game and the other pick came real late in the game, I believe.
Yeah.
If correctly. The one that
is there a chance we see Ty Simpson next week?
Probably not Ty Simpson. It'd probably be Buckner, if I had to guess.
You think so?
Well, Buckner was number 2 out of the gate last week, and you didn't see Ty Simpson.
I really thought Simpson would get a shot this. I'm really surprised by that.
From all accounts, I'm thinking I'm hearing Buckner pretty much replaced Simpson as the number 2 guy. So I could be.
Well, I mean, he is a Tommy Rees guy.
Yeah. So, but anyway, the first interception, a lot of the Bama fans that I had talked to, they were just praying and hoping that he didn't, just start being deer in the headlights as the game went on because of that first interception. And what it looked like to me was if the first read was not there, he was looking to bail immediately. So there were a few times where if he would have just stayed patient in the pocket, he could have at least had a find somebody, and he wasn't doing that. He was definitely running for his life. It's not like that there was some cause for concern, but there were a few times where there wasn't people back there, and he was seeing ghosts, and he was trying to bail before he really needed to bail. But at the same time, there were a lot of plays in which the offensive line just wasn't that good, and
you would think
definitely
the massive size of their offensive line
right
could do a little bit better than that. He really would.
And then it was not only they were allowing, the rushers to get through, but the plays in which they were able to, hold them off, they were holding, and you had penalties,
right.
Or you had
they only had 107 rushing yards, Bama.
Right.
Yesterday.
So you had the illegal snaps from the center because he kept faking. He kept jumping before the snap himself, and then snapping the ball. And then a lot of times he's trying to snap it too early because Jalen Milroe's not even ready for it. So when he was snapping, then he wasn't snapping it to Jalen. There was a lot of times with Jalen's having to pick it up off the ground, and move. So there was a lot of things that were wrong. And when you're having to pick the ball up off the ground, you're thinking that you've already wasted a second or two.
And you got a 300-pound guy coming at you.
Right. So
you got your head down trying to pick up the ball.
Right. Of your 4 seconds that you've got to have with the ball, you're spending 1 to 2 trying to pick the ball up. So you think you don't have as much time as you actually do. A couple times when you had the bad snaps, and then he's trying to run almost immediately when he didn't have to or anything like that. But I mean, again, the center was putting him in that bad situation to begin with. So it's not 100% Jalen Milroe's fault, but Jalen Milroe do a whole lot to.
Well, who does Bama play next week? My guess is it's a smaller team. That's the reason why.
I think they've got a small like a non.
I'm pretty sure they do. A smaller non-conference game next week. I'm pretty sure after this Texas game.
Right,
and that's why I say I think there's a chance that we'll see, one of these other quarterbacks.
It's not a smaller school. It is a known non-conference, but it's not anywhere like it's not a team that's going to be that is a threat. How about that?
Okay,
it's South Florida.
South Florida. Okay.
Yeah. So not a massive school, but not a threat. They're not going to be a threat.
Yeah. So, but Bama's got some clean some things up, and Texas, I'm not going to say the whole back thing because I think that's an absolute ridiculous thing, but I will say this, and I have been saying this the entire preseason up to this point. Texas has a ton of talent. They are full of 5-star kids on that defensive line, receiving core, their running back. They have 3 5-star quarterbacks on that team. I mean, they are loaded with talent. And this Texas team is a team that could challenge for a college football playoff spot down the road. Now, I didn't have them in that preseason, and the main reason why is I thought Bama would take care of business at home, but that didn't happen. So now I think Texas has got a path. I clearly think at this point so far, and this is just my opinion, and we'll get to another topic here in just a few minutes, but I clearly think that they are the class of the Big 12 so far.
Yeah, I believe it's going to be them and even Oklahoma as well.
And Kansas State has looked good.
Kansas State has looked good. We'll see what how everybody fares after that, but I believe those are going to be your three teams at the moment. So
anyway, but I'll move on. The next game I wanted to talk to you about, John, was Texas A&M and Miami. I didn't trust either of these darn teams. These are both teams that I haven't trusted either one of them. We did do a pick 'em, and I had to pick one, and of course I picked the wrong one on this one. With the spreads, I did go 7-5. I went 9-3 as winners, but with spreads, I went 7-5. But this is one game that I got wrong. Miami put up 48 points on Texas A&M yesterday, and to me, that says a lot. Their defense is, again, they've been getting a lot of 5-stars. They are pretty much loaded with 4- and 5-star players on that defense. And to give up 48 points to Miami is I don't understand it. How in the hell can they give up 48 points to Miami? I don't get it, John.
I don't know, man. So I know I wasn't on your pick'em show. So, but what I would have picked Miami just for the sheer fact that I would just wanted that, and I would have wanted the funny, just it being hilarious and being very stupid that Texas A&M being a team that's just loaded with 4- and 5-star players can't seem to beat teams that they should.
I don't understand it. I mean, not just get beat, but how do you give up nearly 50 points to Miami? I don't get it.
I don't know, but you know what? What was funny about last year's team was a team that they kept getting beat, over and over and over, but then they went and beat LSU right there at the end of the season, which was also just the hilarity of that, and picking A&M just for the fact that it would be funny if they beat LSU, and that's exactly what happened. They beat LSU, and I got that one right. But this one here with Miami, I had a feeling that this would be one of those games that Jimbo and Petrino, but I don't know how much it was on the offense.
Petrino put up 33 points.
I think
it's on the defense.
Yeah, so the offense still scored 30. I mean, look, 33 is probably a lot better than what
they did last year. I can tell you that, and they averaged last year.
So 33 is better than what they had been doing within the last year
couple
or two.
Of years, actually.
But the defense should not be giving up 48, and that is a problem. That's
a huge problem, and so kudos to Miami. I need to look at them a little better. I don't really know yet. I'm not at that point yet, but I'm surprised. I was surprised by this game. I thought with the hiring of Bobby Petrino that the offense would be improved enough that their talent level on defense could help carry them. But when you look at what happened yesterday, it's the exact opposite. I mean, their defense and their talent level and the 4-star kids that they got are just not playing up to a standard. They're just not.
True. Yeah.
So you got that. And then the next one that I want to get to real quick with you is Coach Prime in Colorado. They again looked really good, got a big win yesterday at home. They rushed the field afterwards. Sanders, and I'm not talking about Dion, his son, Shadur Sanders, is thrown for like 900 yards in 2 games and 8 touchdowns or something like that.
It's ridiculous.
8 or 9.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. Travis Hunter looks like an absolute star on the college football field.
Well, He was a number one
Yeah,
high
he
school
was.
prospect.
He was the
So
number one prospect.
let's not forget
It's
that
not.
he was a,
It's not a huge surprise that he's not. But what I'm saying is, he absolutely is playing up to that level. Travis Hunter is, and it's going to be interesting to see where Colorado kind of falls. Did you freeze up on me? I think John froze up on me. It's going to be pretty interesting to see where Colorado falls in this Pac-12, because the Pac-12 is really, really playing some good ball.
Yeah.
Oh, there you are.
Hey, we all came back because we all got cut out. I don't know what happened.
Did I get cut out too?
Probably.
Okay, I don't know. I saw you got cut out, but I'm just saying Hunter's living up to that responsibility of being the number one. He's playing that kind of ball, and it's going to be interesting. Pac-12 is playing better. I think they're right now. I would put them at the best conference so far through 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, up until Mississippi State and Auburn beat Pac-12 teams last night, they had not lost.
Yeah, right.
They had not lost. So
right.
This is yeah. Think about that. Auburn and Mississippi State are the flag bearers for the SEC.
Yeah, we'll get to that. I got something for you when it comes to that here in a minute. But finishing up with Coach Prime, I've never really been a true Deion Sanders fan. Okay, and that's from all the way back when he played at Florida State. That's when he played. I'm not a Dallas Cowboys fan at all. I'm not a 49ers fan. They were two of my teams growing up that I did not like. And those are the teams that he starred on, minus the Atlanta Falcons. And, you know, I don't know. So I want to get that out of the way, but I do respect good coaching. I respect, hyping people up and getting people to a certain level. And you have to give Deion the due and the credit that he deserves for doing what he's done now at his second place. And with you on board right now, I know Freeze just won a second game last night, but how close was Auburn to really giving Deion a call last year?
So I would think that
was that a possibility? Because I thought it was a possibility. But
I think the board was probably split on Deion, because Deion, they want to find somebody that they can have more control over. I think Hugh Freeze is one that they actually have more control because they can bring up his past. Whereas Deion would be somebody that would be
Deion,
all
could
against.
you imagine Deion teaming up with against Saban in the SEC? Like, that would have been. I think
there's your Affleck commercial right there.
I'm telling you, man. I mean, can you imagine that? I thought for sure that they would give a good look at Deion last year when they were hiring somebody.
Look, I think his name was tossed around. I think he was on the board. Like, I think he was on the big board as far as what they were looking for. But I feel like what would have happened was that maybe some of the board of trustees were wanting him, and they didn't have a split decision. That Hugh Freeze, I think, is a guy that they actually, where most of them were all on board for, so they all backed one.
I mean, of course, Kiffin got a lot of the up front, the early stuff,
right.
But that's when I thought they should have really been talking and looking at Deion.
Right,
I think is when all the Kiffin stuff was going on.
Yeah, and I think and what I'm trying to figure, what I feel like happened with Kiffin stuff is that Kiffin was just playing them to get a bigger contract from Ole Miss. Yeah. So
I think if you want to know the truth, I think Kiffin wants to stick around and be good and wait for that Alabama job.
I think so too. I think that's exactly what he's looking at. Is he's looking at the Alabama job. So he just wants to. He wants to go and take Ole Miss, be good enough and relevant enough being at Ole Miss, and that when the Alabama job does come open, that he goes and tries to put his name in the hat.
That's my take. That's what If you ask me, that's what's going on with Kiffin. But when all that talk was going on with Kiffin last year, if you remember, I told you they should look at Dion.
Right.
know.
You did. And like I said, I think I think the board wanted somebody that they felt like they had more control over.
And I know Freeze is okay, and he's doing what he's supposed to right now, and he's recruiting good, and he's doing what he's supposed to. Okay, but can you imagine the buzz right now that would be going on if he was at Auburn and kicking tail at Auburn like he is at Colorado?
So there'd be a lot of more things that would be happening. One, the 80 transfers that he got into Colorado, he would have had probably maybe not 80, but he would have had a lot. And that team, he could actually pick up probably better quality of player because of the name
at Auburn.
With Auburn.
Right.
And I would think that, yes, that school or that Auburn would be just, there would be a huge buzz going on right now. Prime were at Auburn rather than at Colorado.
Yeah.
So,
I just wanted to bring it up. You're an Auburn alum and a big fan and stuff, so I just wanted to bring it up. But it's a good topic, something that somebody watching the show can be like, oh, man, that would be a heck of a buzz if that was going on. And I did talk about it last year, so, my next topic here is the SEC is looking bad so far, in my opinion, John. And I'll start by saying this. The SEC was 0-3 in week 1 versus ranked opponents. Okay. Mm-hmm. Right now, after week 2, the SEC is 1-4 against the ACC.
Yeah,
okay.
with the
total,
one win being one of the worst teams in college football, or one of the worst P5 teams in college
Virginia.
football.
Yeah, Tennessee over Virginia. Yeah,
right, being the one win. Yeah, exactly.
And so I just wanted to get your opinion. What do you think? I mean, last night Auburn pulled out a win. Mississippi State pulled out a win against Pac-12 teams, which kind of helped a little bit on the bottom end of stuff. It helps.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But Bama gets beat as a ranked opponent yesterday. Now, Ole Miss did win against a ranked opponent at Tulane yesterday. So the SEC did get a ranked win yesterday.
And 2 road victories.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But yes. As you were saying, the SEC has not looked great, whether it's been Bama losing or if it
LSU loses, South Carolina lost where game day was at.
There's a lot of big stage games, a lot of ones where there were a lot of eyeballs saw those games, and a lot of eyeballs saw the SEC get beat, and they are all talking, and it is
absolutely. And this is the first time in 12, 15 years that the SEC has started out like this, in my opinion.
Right.
Like, it's been a long time. So, on top of a few of those, Kentucky didn't look great yesterday. Tennessee didn't look great yesterday. They got wins against they were far superior teams. Tennessee and Kentucky was.
Georgia kind of looks.
Georgia has been slow a couple of times. Both games really. I'm trying to think of who else. There's a couple of other ones. Now, Auburn's took care of business. I didn't watch last night's game, and we'll talk about that right before we close the show because it was on really late. I did watch the start of the game up to about halftime, but I didn't really see how the game finished, and it was only 14-10, so it couldn't have been too exciting. The whole game, I wouldn't think, but.
Well, I tweeted out earlier that I'm not really sure what I fear the most, or what was it that what scared most, teaching my 15-year-old to drive or Auburn football, or what would kill me first. One of those it was something along that earlier this morning when I tweeted that out, and I thought that was a very You know, I thought it was very
Right.
comparable.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Just
Yeah.
watching that. That's how the game went. So
All right, we'll get to it in a minute. Pac-12, I've already said I think the Pac-12 has been the best conference so far in 2023. If you're just looking at, these 2.5 weeks or week 0, whatever you count that week, up until late last night, they had won every game so far. And the teams that lost was Arizona and Arizona State, California, late last night. So they are not going to be 3 of the top teams in the Pac-12 anyway.
right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they're going to be near the bottom. Stanford's probably the bottom, but outside of that, they're going to be near the bottom. Those 3 teams are probably in the Pac-12. But having said that, in the AP poll that just come out when we started the show, there are 8, count them up, there are 8 Pac-12 teams in the AP poll this week.
It's usually what you see with the SEC on a weekly basis, but I think there's only 4 SEC teams or 3 in the top 25, being Georgia, Tennessee, and Ole Miss. I believe it's those 4. LSU. So there's 5. But with the Pac-12, you've got Oregon, Utah, USC,
Washington State moved in.
Washington State, Oregon State.
Yep.
So you have all those teams along with Colorado,
Utah, Colorado. Now I'm telling you got
UCLA. Yep.
UCLA come in at the bottom of it, and USC at the top. There are 8 Pac-12 teams in the top 25 this week.
Right, and 3. I think at this very moment, I think that the Pac-12 is the deepest conference that's there, because I think. And
I've been telling people in the preseason that I expected this to be a really, really good Pac-12 year, and
it's funny. It's last.
I know. It's sad to me, really, that they are so good, but yet the team, the conference wouldn't do the right things to hold it together, basically. Right. But it is what it is. Yeah. And the ACC, give them a little bit of good talk for the ACC. You got to show them some love. I think the ACC has, like I said, is 4-1 against the SEC so far, and won the big games. They beat the game day game with North Carolina and South Carolina, and they beat us, FSU over LSU in the SEC. And I say us Miami, because I am a homer. I will fully admit that I'm an SEC homer.
Miami over Texas A&M. While most SEC schools and fans are actually more just thinking that that's funny rather than like standing up for Texas A&M and anything that Texas A&M does, I think they're more of, yeah, you can have that one. That's fine.
Well, but see, the thing of it is Miami's probably at the best a mid ACC team.
They are, at
best.
At what they've been. Now, it's possible that this year is a year that they actually show up and show out. Tyler Van Dyke has actually shown Van Dyke has shown pretty glimpses of being a really good quarterback, and we'll just have to see what happens with him for the rest of the season. So,
I mean, that's true. I want to give some love, talking about the Pac-12 just a few minutes ago, I want to give some love to Washington State last night. They beat who was ranked 19th in the AP poll last week, Wisconsin, come out to Washington State. Washington State is a team that is being left out of all of this conference realignment stuff. Washington State and Oregon State. And I don't know if you caught the coach's interview last night, if you've seen the coach's interview after the game when they were on the field. Like, you can tell that it is majorly affecting. He was asked about the game and what it means for the program. And he basically said, I just want everybody to know that we are a Power 5 conference team, and it's a shame that's what's going on. And his voice was all cracking up. It was a really solid moment. If you didn't see it, what's going on in the college football world, there's another side to things. Everybody only looks at, who's jumping where and blah, blah, blah. And, who's making money here and who's going there. But there are some teams that are being left out of this. And Washington State is one of them. And for them to get a big win at home against a Big Ten team who is taking 4 of their teams is, it's a huge win for them. And if you didn't get a chance to see that coach's interview right after the game on the field, fans all around, if you didn't get a chance to see it, you should watch it. It was a pretty cool moment, and I just wanted to say that.
He was wearing a shirt for Mike Leach too. So
yes, yeah, he was, and they actually honored Mike Leach last night too before that game. So that was part of it too, and I just thought it was a real cool moment after the game. So, all right. Auburn, California. It was first time Auburn's went out on the road like that in a long, long time. When's the last time non-conference that they went out on the road like that? It's only happened 2 or 3 times in the last 20, 30 years, hasn't it?
Well, they, as far as being on the road, obviously you can play your neutral site games or anything like that. So, but I can't remember if they played Clemson at Clemson or anything like that, or if they just played them neutral site. But I think they played Clemson at Clemson. But they've not gone cross country like that since 2003 when they went to USC. It was the last time that I think they went out to California in a non-conference regular season game. Right. They went out to USC in 2003. I know that that
was 20 years ago. So
yeah, and I know that they played Washington State, but I think that was a one-off, and that was in Auburn, and that was in like 2005. I don't think they ever had a return trip to Washington State. They've gone back and forth with Georgia Tech again. That's only like an hour and a half up the road, so not really dealing with a lot of travel on that one. The furthest that they've gone recently is going to Dallas again. Those were neutral site in Jerry World when they played Oregon back in I think 2019. So there's not been where that's been on an opponent's campus and it been that far away, or at least something relatively far away as far as the what Auburn has traveled to in non-conference. Especially early in the season. So, So it's been a long time.
All right. So my questions to you is this. I didn't watch the full game, but I know last week Robbie Ashford come in and went most of the game when Auburn got inside the red zone.
Correct.
And operated from inside the red zone, and I think helped them score like 3 touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken. And I may have the numbers wrong. If I do, you can correct me. But so was that part of the game plan last night with California?
Well, the biggest problem with Auburn was that they barely got into the red zone at any given time. They spent most of their time backed in their own end zone, because what ended up happening was every time that Cal started with the ball, it seemed like that they were starting with the ball at Auburn's 35-yard line the entire game. So Auburn rarely started the ball or even got the ball in Cal's red zone. I believe the only times that they did, Auburn did score touchdowns on them, unless one of those were the fumbles. They may have fumbled once. But they didn't really ever have time to run that offense in that manner. Now, they did bring Ashford out because Peyton Thorne was not really doing anything that they needed in the game. So they did have to bring Ashford out and do Ashford somewhere else. They needed something to kickstart that offense. They didn't have any offense at all.
So how did Ashford do once he came in for that reason? Not very good.
I mean, he was
okay.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Look, Ashford.
I just know that last week there was some buzz that Ashford in the red zone done really well.
So there were three names that you need to know in that came out of this game. One was Eugene Asante. Okay, Eugene Asante, defensive player, as a linebacker, was all over the field. He was made 10, 12 tackles in the game. He had a sack. He had a bunch of tackles for loss. That guy was all over the place. He's number 9 on the defense. That dude was ball out. Okay. Now, on the offensive side of the ball, there was only a couple of names, and Auburn just, for whatever reason, didn't use them once they were having success. One is, I believe, now I'm going blank on the running back's name. Number 22 on the running back. He had a pretty successful with the runs that he was having. Plus, they were throwing it to him as much, some of the time. So he had some receiving yards and some rushing yards. The next guy is Fairweather. I believe his number is number 13. He is a tight end, big receiver type body. He ended up going up and over a guy for a touchdown late in the game. He's the reason why it went from 7 to 14. And had a couple of catches during the game late in big time situations where he needed to make a catch. So Fairweather, they threw it to him a couple of times. He actually looked good. And then Eugene Asante. And then I'm going to look this other guy, but I can't, right off the top of my head, I know the number. I just went blank.
I don't know all the guys, I can't even tell you.
But yeah, that was there was only 3 guys, and none of which were a quarterback on Auburn's roster that actually looked good. So,
okay.
But yeah, so the game, there was a lot of weird things that happened in that game. The Cal Twitter and Auburn Twitter went back and forth about how weird things happened in Memorial Stadium in Cal Berkeley. Well, Auburn fans were like, you're preaching to the choir, because there's way more things that happen that are weird in Auburn, right, at night. So they said, you still haven't said anything that scares us, or that, you're not going to say that there's something weird that happened in your game that is so weird that it's never been seen by anybody else. Okay, great.
Especially at Auburn.
The band was on the field in your stadium 50 years ago. Great. Yeah. I get it. Okay, there were weird things that happened there, but, we had a kick six and a Hail Mary 2 weeks apart against number 1 teams when we were playing them. Like, okay.
Yeah.
And even in those games, I mean, the Georgia game, we should have won by a long shot. We allowed Georgia to come back in the game and then hit the Hail Mary at the end on a 4th and 13 or 4th and 16 or something like that. Hit the Hail Mary. 2 Georgia guys go run into each other. One who eventually plays for Auburn later on in his career. They run into each other and pop the ball straight up. And it's like, it went from not being a spiral pass to being a spiral after they hit each other. Okay. Right. And our receiver looks up and it's like, oh my God, it's right there, and reaches his hand out and grabs it. And then it's like 15 yards to the end zone, walks in. Right. Then, I mean, 2 weeks later.
I'm just saying, you can't, Auburn's definitely got
you got the voodoo magic, it's weird.
I mean,
and it's, but
probably more so than New Orleans, Orleans. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I have seen Auburn lose a game in
I'm just saying, Baton Rouge, like in the fields down there where they're at, like Tulane, and I'm saying Auburn probably has more voodoo stuff going on in their games than they do theirs. So that's not even debatable,
right?
But so they held Cal to 10 points. They won the game. Auburn's 2-0. I would think Auburn fans have got to be pretty happy with that, right?
So they are relieved that they got out of there. They the Auburn fans are just relieved that they left California with a victory. I believe right now they are going.
Who y'all play next week?
Oh my God, we stole one.
Yeah. Who y'all play next week?
Sanford.
Yep. I know this is another week. You know, a lot of teams will be playing some smaller teams. So
yep.
Sanford's right in your backyard.
It is. They are. But they're going to travel down to Auburn. But yeah, it's Sanford. Auburn should
right. And Kentucky should have yesterday, but you know it was a lot closer than what it should have been. So
right.
You know,
so
that's the way it happens sometimes.
Yeah, and there were about 3 or 4 different things that happened in the game last night that like the Cal fans are, you know, that they're saying a bunch of different things. The one thing is like, okay, the officiating crew was SEC. Okay, so there's about 4 things that they are pointing out that those were calls that screwed Cal. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to set the record straight right now. Okay. In the first drive of Auburn, since you were watching this game, you would have seen this at this point. Yeah. In the first drive of Auburn, Peyton Thorne is running down the sideline. The ball comes out of his hand, or somehow comes out of his hands, goes right into a Cal defensive player, and he runs it back for a touchdown, okay, along the sidelines. However, they called the play dead because they thought that Peyton Thorne had gone out of bounds. And because he's obviously a protected player being a quarterback, they don't want anybody getting hit, you know, as soon as he goes out of bounds. So the line judge that's behind Thorne calls, you know, blows the whistle, blows it dead. Now, they review the play and they give Cal the ball at the spot in which he gave.
Actually, that actually happened in the game last week with Kentucky, and they ran it back for a touchdown as well. And then they gave the ball to Kentucky, but they gave it to them at the spot of the, you know, and it was crazy. I'd never seen anything like that. Actually.
So they because the official had blown the play dead. Yeah, they gave the ball where they were. Now Cal got the ball, and they eventually, I believe, kicked a field goal out of this. Yeah, I cannot remember off the top of my head if they kicked a field goal or if it was one of those that resulted in no points. But Cal routinely was on Auburn's side of the field and even in Auburn's red zone and could not come away with any more points than 10. They missed 3 field goals, all from the right hash in the game. And then they had 1 field goal that was taken away because there was a holding on the end of their line. One of their guys reached out, one of their ends reached out and grabbed an Auburn rusher and basically hooked him and pulled him to the ground. That is a hold.
Right.
This was called correctly.
Yeah.
It took them out of field goal range. They had to do the play over. They did not get the first down,
right,
over on downs, and they did not get it. So then that's one of the plays that they're talking about. That's a field goal that, well, that should have been. And then the fumble that I think they're calling for a fumble. There was a fumble recovery or something like that, and there were multiple fumbles that went for both teams that aren't necessarily clear in video, but they were both calls that were reversed. So one went Auburn's way, one went the other way, and for whatever reason, they were crying about that too. Look, I will tell you this: the Peyton Thorne play that happened early was the only one that you have a semi beef on, but you can't be complaining too bad because the ref was where he was supposed to be and just could not see it. It was a bad circumstance and he could not see it.
I just don't understand on that call because it happened last week at Kentucky too, okay? It wasn't Eastern Kentucky, it was a Ball State game.
Right.
And Kentucky picked it up, scooped, and scored a touchdown on it, okay? And it was a clear fumble, okay? Like it was a clear as day fumble. It wasn't even close, okay? And they had to review it because they blew the play dead for some odd reason. And why it was how in the world they would blow that play dead to begin with is a whole nother question. But my question is this. If you rule that it's a fumble, how can you not let the team advance a fumble?
So
I don't understand that.
There are things that are okay. If
it's a fumble and it's in play, how do you not let a team advance a fumble?
Okay, well, I'm about to explain it. There are ways in which you can or cannot advance a fumble. One is your player cannot advance the fumble. It can't be that if you had a player, the only person that can advance the fumble is the ball carrier, the guy. No.
I'm talking about on defense. We were on defense on our play.
So your defensive player picked it up and ran it back.
Yeah.
Okay. Then no, they should be able to do that.
I don't understand. I really don't understand how you can. If you rule it's a fumble and it's in the wide open and a defensive player picks it up and scoops and runs it in, that's a touchdown. I'm sorry. You can't rule that it's a fumble and not let the defense advance the fumble. I mean,
well, that is up against. I mean, I wouldn't understand exactly why they would blow it dead at that point. If they already are ruling it a fumble on the field, there shouldn't have been another an official blowing it dead. So that I don't know
that I'm telling you, it happened last week in Kentucky game, and I was crazy. It was like, what in the world?
Right.
All right. So we're getting close to time here. I want to kind of finish up the scoreboard. I've got it up on the screen there. And I'm going to talk about some of the games that wasn't top 25 teams. And so we've got Wake Forest beat Vandy 36-20. Purdue beat Virginia Tech 24-17. Virginia got beat by James Madison 36-35. We were talking about Virginia being one of the worst teams. I just wanted to throw that out there. Virginia Tech beat South Carolina State 48-13. Kentucky won 28-17. BYU won 41-16 over Southern Utah. Iowa State was 20-13. Iowa won that game at Iowa State. Michigan State beat Richmond 45-14. I'm trying to see some of these games. I mean, West Virginia beat Duquesne 56-17, which I think is significant for Neil Brown. So I wanted to put that in there. Cincinnati took care of business at Pittsburgh 27-21 yesterday, which was an impressive win. I don't know what's going on with Satterfield, but all of a sudden I think he can coach. I don't know. And you got Emory Jones there from the old Florida quarterback that went to Arizona State and now is at Cincinnati. And now you got Emory Jones playing and winning and Satterfield winning. And I'm to this point, I still don't know exactly what's happening with that, but it is happening. They are 2-0 and looking pretty good. Alabama beat Middle Tennessee pretty bad in week 1 yesterday. Middle Tennessee nearly knocked off Missouri at home. Missouri won 23-19. Wasn't a good look for them. UCF barely beat Boise State at Boise State. Tough place to play, but it was 18-16. Weird numbers in that game. I'm not sure how it got to 18-16.
Ton of offense. I think UCF had like over 500 yards of offense, only scored 16 points.
Yeah, I mean, it's just some weird numbers there. Rice took a huge lead on Houston yesterday. Rice has got JT Daniels. If y'all remember him, that's who their quarterback is. That's where he's playing in his like 12th school in 13 years or whatever it is. I don't know, something crazy. But he's down there playing. They'll deny Tez Walker from playing at North Carolina, but it's okay for a guy like JT Daniels to play at his 14th school.
Right.
Which doesn't make any sense, by the way. But anyways, so they jumped out to a huge lead. Houston tied it up, took them into overtime, and Rice beat Houston yesterday in double overtime, 43-41.
The real Houston team.
Florida won. McNeese State ran the ball down their throats. I just don't see them being able to do that against some of the better competition. But they did win a game yesterday. I've already talked about Mississippi State. South Carolina beat Furman 47-21. UCLA, who is now ranked 135-10 over San Diego State. Oklahoma State beat Arizona State yesterday, 27-15 in the Big 12. Any other games that you can think of that I left out?
Did you talk about the South Carolina Furman game?
I mentioned it, yeah.
Okay.
47-21.
I believe by the way, the running back's name is Damari Alston. That's the one that for Auburn. That was the third player that I was talking about. As far as the scores yesterday, let me run through a few of them that we may not have gotten into. UTSA and Texas State. That was one.
Yeah.
That I believe UTSA edged out Texas State. Texas State had beaten Baylor the week before.
Yeah.
So
and Texas State is another one that has
TJ Finley.
TJ Finley. Yes, I was trying to think who it is that's played at Auburn, but it's Finley.
Right. Yeah. Yep. And I mean, let's see. I believe Georgia Tech. I think they won their game.
They did.
They've got Haynes King as their quarterback, the former
Texas A&M
quarterback.
Yeah.
Just trying to go through some of the other scores. Let's see. Rutgers beat Temple pretty handedly. Those were Florida State whooped up on Southern Miss. I think you had actually said that one. USC had beaten Stanford. USC being, that a rivalry game, and they absolutely smoked them.
Yeah,
in that game.
That Stanford team is not good. So,
yeah, I don't know. Let's see. Memphis beat Butch Jones and Arkansas State 37-3.
He's taking 2 beatings, by the way. Beatings. I mean whoopings.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's see. La Tech beat Northwestern State. That's not really a big.
UAB got beat yesterday.
They did. They got beat by Georgia Southern, I believe.
Yeah.
Georgia State beat UConn. That is probably one to kind of note there. Georgia State beating UConn.
They did.
Coastal Carolina doubled up Jacksonville State. Jacksonville State wasn't really expected to win that game. I think they actually won by the spread. I think the spread was about 14, and it ended up and it ended up being a 14-point victory anyway. So I think you pretty much have gone through a lot of them. FIU beat North Texas, so the team that Cal put a beating on got beat again by FIU. So
and that North Texas team has had some talent the last couple of years, but they have struggled out of the box.
They have, and it just I think that one, everybody is being elevated into a new conference, so they're going from CUSA up to but I don't think they've played anybody yet that is from the AAC.
No, they haven't.
So, but I mean, again, I think that's all. They're about to kind of run through that. But I mean, half their conference came from Conference USA, so they should
Right.
be familiar with everybody once they start playing in there. Michigan State,
Yeah, they won yesterday.
they did, but they're about to be without a coach. So
I don't really want to get into that at
Yeah.
this late. I got to close it up, but yeah.
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 Bowling Green won. Weird.
Western won yesterday. I didn't mention that, but there's
Yeah.
a few games I didn't mention.
Yep. So that should be about it. I mean, there's
Western
not really
Kentucky, by the way. That's when I said Western.
Purdue beat Tech.
Around here, we just
So-
say Western, but there's a lot of Westerns like Western Michigan. And I mean,
Right.
so yeah. But anyways, it's Western Kentucky University, the one I was talking about. They won yesterday.
Yep.
So we appreciate you guys being with us. We are the College SportsCast. We're part of the Fanboys. It's been on the bottom of the screen. You can find us on Let's Talk Sports. You can also find us on Sideline Sports on a channel that they have, the Real Fresh channel on YouTube, and we are on WSBN TV channel 30. Now, how you can find us on WSBN TV is through Roku, Apple TV, or Fire TV. Look up World Sports Broadcasting Network. First, download Boxcast app, then look up World Sports Broadcasting Network. And then once you find them, you can find us on channel 30. And you can find us on Roku, Apple TV, and Fire TV. So it's pretty cool that we are able to do that. Our next show is on the screen there. It's going to be Tuesday, September the 12th at 8 p.m. Central Time. It's going to be the Big Fuss show. And this is where we come together and we try to get some hot topics and some debate topics and have a couple of segments called the Pick Six and No Fly Zone. And we try to have a little bit of a debate and have a little bit of fun with that show. John, if you're available Tuesday night, I'm not sure what Jason's doing. Jason had told me he could be on, but I haven't heard from him in about a week, so I'm not sure. But if you want to be on Tuesday night, you and Hammonds can and me can go at it in our Big Fuss show and have a little bit of fun on Tuesday night. But I appreciate you guys being on. It went just a little longer than I was going to, but we had a lot to talk about, and I know he wanted to give him a chance to talk about Auburn too, because they are 2-0 and new coach, new system, and he's a recruiter, and you have to give him that. And he's,
Right.
If he can also win some of these games on the field, it'll help. And Auburn will soon be where Auburn fans think that they should be. But I also wanted to create a little buzz about the Deion thing and imagine where Auburn would be right now if they had Deion and the buzz that is happening at Colorado and in Alabama, with Alabama just losing. I mean, it would be chaos.
Oh yeah.
And you like chaos.
Oh yeah.
So I just wanted to bring that up. But join us on Tuesday night for our College SportsCast, the Big Fuss Show, and we will see you on Tuesday. Y'all have a good night.
See you.